Today was another hard day for writing. Not because I didn't have energy, but because I was constantly thinking about a very difficult theme that I want to integrate into my story. And that is the theme of betrayal, betrayal of friendship. I'm Father Roderick. I'm an aspiring author of a fantasy novel, and this is day 43 of my writer's journey. So I have created these, I think, wonderful characters, hopefully uh, realistic characters, as much as is possible within the span of a relatively simple fantasy novel. But characters that I can relate to because they either resemble myself or people that I know. And a lot of what they go through mirrors experiences that I've had in my own life. This is one of the advantages, actually, to start writing late in life. I mean, there are many times that I'm telling myself I should have started writing 30 years ago, but there is actually a perk of writing when you're a little bit older because you've gone through quite a few experiences in your life and you've had your sheer amount of trials. You've been confronted with your own faults and flaws, as well as with those of people around you. And I hope that it informs my character arcs and it makes them more believable and more relatable. And that is why I've chosen to integrate an aspect that in my real life, in my personal experience, counts among the most difficult things that you can experience. And that is if a friend betrays your friendship. I think we all probably have some kind of experience of betrayal. And we also know that betrayal can happen in various degrees, and especially how it affects you can have lots of variations. Some betrayals hurt more than others. I'm thinking of the betrayal of Boromir in The Lord of the Rings. That initially hurts a lot because he's supposed to be a protector. He's strong, and yet he tries to take the ring from Frodo, who is half his size and has none of the power that Boromir has. How can someone with such a responsibility fail and fall so deeply? But after a while, we start to understand that it hurts to see someone you thought was an ally and a member of the fellowship and a hero even um, falls for the temptation of the ring, but at the same time we learn more and more about the seductive power of the ring. And the more we understand how dangerous the ring truly is, the more we also, I wouldn't say understand Boromir, but there are attenuating circumstances, which helps in processing what he did. There are other types of betrayal that hurt us much more deeply because they are not a result of a flaw in a moment, but they are the result of a long simmering betrayal. The relationship has never truly been real. There was always a secondary agenda that you didn't know of. And that kind of betrayal hurts so much deeper because for an extended time, you have given a person your trust. You may have shown yourself very vulnerable because you thought that that person was there for you and would help you and would carry you if needed, it would protect you. And when that person turns out to be in this relationship with you only for personal gain, to reach his or her goals instead of helping you realize your goals, that kind of betrayal can be very hard to process, let alone to forgive. And that is the kind of betrayal that I want to introduce in my story. And the question is, of course, how do you pace that? Now, we all know that in my book, we have the two main protagonists and their siblings. So you've got Orla and her sister Neve, and then you've got Ty and his brother Brandon. And they're good people. They're flawed, but good people. And then this guy shows up, Felix, and he's amazing. I mean, he's good looking. He knows a lot. He is kind of a rebel, which really appeals to Orla. And he seems to be always there to help them. He's like steps ahead of them and always tries to guide them in the situations that they're in. And it kind of what I think is so hard to write is to make him likable, because I know who he truly is. I know that he is a traitor. And yet I have to write him as a friend. And not just a friend, but as a great friend, as a lovable character. Imagine that I was George Lucas and I had to write New Hope, and I was writing Han Solo. And then at the end, when after Han Solo returned in the Millennium Falcon and saved Luke Skywalker from being blown out of the sky by Darth Vader, imagine that at the end, they get their medal and Han Solo is standing there, and then he gives a sign, and all of a sudden the entire group there, the entire crowd is surrounded by stormtroopers, and it turns out that Han Solo was Darth Vader's son. And he was in cahoots with Darth Vader, and he waited and he waited and he waited until he had the confidence, and then the movie ends with that revelation where everybody is taken prisoner and Han Solo is like, yeah, now you know what it means to have a bad feeling about something like that. I don't know. But anyway, I don't think I could write a character like that. I cannot imagine Han Solo being a bad guy. I mean, he's selfish and he's kind of narrow-minded and superficial at first. But there's progression and he becomes more and more likable. In my book, I'm trying to do the inverse. I'm starting off with a Han Solo, and then I have to turn him into Kylo Ren or Darth Vader or just some really bad dude. And I also want it to be nuanced, because it's not going to be realistic if he's just an evil guy. He needs to have a motivation as well. But his drive, his motivation must be so strong that he's willing to betray the friendship of the few people that he really connects to. So I want the betrayal to feel for Felix as a sacrifice. He is sacrificing a friendship for a higher purpose. So that's a very complicated way to write betrayal. At least I'm struggling with it. And it's also going to be quite a challenge to work towards how my protagonists are going to react to this. And I think it can go both ways. You can have anger or resignation. And I think that Ty will probably resign. He will just see this as another proof that he always makes the wrong friends and never, it's all his fault. It's kind of, his mentality is always to internalize the pain and turn it against himself. And I think that Orla at first is going to be super angry because she initially had this hunch that this guy is not to be trusted. And then she gives in. She is more and more learning to trust him. And then in the end, he turns out to be a traitor after all. So she's going to blame herself also for that. But then I want actually Felix to use that anger to turn her to the dark side, if I may use a Star Wars analogy. So I want to resolve this not by Orla forgiving him or Felix immediately, being sorry and returning to the light side. No, I want Felix to convince her that the sacrifice of the friendship was because of an ideal that she shares with him. And that's going to be the big problem for Orla, because once she joins Felix in his thwarted, radicalized view of the world, it's going to be so much harder to ever turn back. And so I'm starting to wonder, can I fit this in a novel? Isn't this becoming way too complicated for a first fantasy novel? What am I doing? And I'm starting to really to worry, because these are difficult things in real life, and they're also super difficult to handle, I think, in a story, because the story still has to be hopeful. It has to, keep you rooting for the people. So I guess, and then this is something I also learned from Brandon Sanderson. You give a promise at the beginning of the story, and then you undermine that, but then you need to still pay it off. So what is ultimately going to bring these two back to tie, and can they truly become friends, and on what kind of level then, if there's been so much hurt, so much pain? I think now that I'm voicing this, I think maybe the solution is that betrayal always first hurts here in the heart, in the feelings. And our reaction can be visceral and emotional. But when it comes to repairing something that is broken, if it comes to rebuilding a relationship, it's something you choose. It's something that you decide to do. Even if your feelings are hurt, you can still decide to be smart about this and to do the right thing, even if you don't feel like doing the right thing and you'd rather put an end to this bleeping bleeper. I want to keep this family friendly. So, yeah, maybe that is the way to go for it. That they have more of an intellectual conversion, and knowing that, well, once they are betrayed by the Grandmaster, because that's going to be, of course, the turning point, when they think the Grandmaster is fully behind them, and then it turns out that he actually has a hidden agenda, and they've been used. That is kind of the mirror that they need to see what they have done to each other and to Ty. Something like that. It's a lot to think about. Writing is a complicated business. Thanks for your patience. Thanks for listening, and always welcome your feedback. So see you next time.